Hello, everyone. I know what you're thinking. Yes, I'm dressed up right now. So sorry if you're disappointed, but you can always go on YouTube to check Panot Prepu and check me without a t-shirt. So what is Panot Prepu? And what is this presentation about? So it's the activist peer campaign done by this guy on the stage, and only him, in Poland to bring the awareness about what PrEP is. In the homophobic country, you may say, with a strong religious background, so how the hell to do it? And what I want you to take out from this is maybe take those learnings that I had and try to implement it in your local country. Maybe that will help you. Maybe you will think, oh my God, this is completely different. Or maybe you will, just take whatever you can from that. So when I thought, what is the universal story of all what I learned from Mr. PrEP? It actually boils down to a very, very simple thing. And at the end of this session, what I wanted to tell you, and then I got stressed out, was answer your question yourself. Is it so different from my country? Is it so different from my community with the learnings that I'm going to tell you? Because when I thought, what is the universal truth that I learned? It all boils down to things that we love the most, and they spin the world around. It's about sex, money, and power. Because if you remove all the cultural background and so on, it's about gay sex. Huge taboo. It's about money, because why should we pay for gays to have unprotected sex, for example? And it's about power, because for some reason, when you talk about gays having sex and reducing HIV, it's this power like, do I want them to allow to do this or not? And I'm sorry to say, but I'm a middle-aged gay guy. You will not tell me how to have sex. So this train is gone. What you can do is to help me and my friends to figure out how to do it more safe for myself. So there we go. That's a picture from last year. I have no copyrights, but it's you guys, right? It's the last year Amsterdam. You see yourself there on the picture? Yeah? Well, I didn't know that it's such a huge group. And to be honest, I should tell you, I have nothing to do, before I started Mr. PrEP, I had nothing to do with the HIV prevention. I'm actually working as an audiologist in the hearing aid company. So I sell hearing aids to make for a living, and this is just a side project. So for me, it's a completely new universe. However, with you guys, there's huge things that I learned today and over those days, but there's just one problem. You know what it is? You have all the answers, you have all the knowledge and all the power to change the HIV situation, but this knowledge is closed in this room. And that's what I was thinking, what can I do as Łukas Sabat, who have absolutely no idea about HIV prevention, besides having experience in sex myself, what can I do? And the answer is like, how can I translate your knowledge to the dark room, to the level of the dark room, because that's where it's important to be. Now, where do I operate, right? Know your audience. Poland. We're the country of the Pope. Not this one, but close enough. Think about what you know about Poland. Yes, I know we are open-minded, we are so futuristic and so on. Well, that's your first thing, right, that you had in mind. Funny facts about Poland. So we are the country where there is no sex education. And actually, just recently I learned that there is a project in the parliament that if you teach sex ed in schools, according to WHO standard, you can be punished with 3 years of prison. Thank you, Pope. What's more, there's no free STD checks. When you go back home, you know what you should do. Then we are the country when there is no morning after pill. And the doctor, your gynecologist can tell you, you know what? It's against my religion, I will not prescribe it to you. Or they will prescribe it to you, but the pharmacist can say, I will not sell it to you, it's against my religion. And you know, it's fine if you live in Warsaw because you just go to the next corner to the next pharmacy. But if you are in the middle of a countryside, well, your problem. But we are the only country where you can buy blue pill over the counter without prescription, and it's not PrEP pill. I know what you guys are thinking. The closest pharmacy, you go out, it's to the right, and it's actually open 24/7. So this is the environment when we operate, and why I'm saying this is because when I have to talk about PrEP with my peer friends, with my colleagues, with my sex partners, I have to go all the way back to explain them what STDs are and how do they transmit. And that, well, maybe you don't have symptoms, but you haven't been testing since all your adult life, so you don't know. You might be having extra friend like gonorrhea or chlamydia and passing it on. Because condoms in Poland gives you a fake perception of safety. I'm not a slut, I use condoms, which means I don't have to get tested. So that's where the positive thing of PrEP comes, that you get your regular tests and any infection can get picked up. So what's so special about me? Actually, I don't live in Poland. So I can say all those things on the stage because I live in Copenhagen, in Denmark. And I was living there for 10 years. And what happened is that 25-year-old Łukas moved to Copenhagen and discovered he had no idea about how to do safe sex. And all my sexual education came from a Danish system, from my doctors, from my nurses, from the STD clinic. And I thought, why the hell? I mean, why no one told me about this? Why I didn't get education about how to be safe and have sex? So that's this amazing perspective that living in two countries for such a long time gave me, and it also gave me perspective to how to talk about PrEP, about sex, because it's a huge stigma in Poland to talk about sex. No one has it. Everyone is monogamous, and you know, everyone is using condoms. It never happens, not even a tip. So you know what I'm talking about. So another amazing, and I'm not going to talk like how great Denmark is, but another amazing perspective that I learned in living in Denmark is like, you take a different look at the same problems. So when AIDS Foundation in Denmark, their problem is like, you know, we have treatment very quickly, people get tested regularly, but the problem we have is actually stigma against people who are living with HIV. They are not detectable and so on, but still it's kind of stigmatizing. So their focus was on showing that stigma, and I think it's just brilliant, right? So pointing attention to different things, and that's also the perspective that I wanted to do in Poland. And maybe also I wanted to give back something to society after great things that I got. So one more important thing, my friend in Poland got HIV positive, and I thought, if he would be in my shoes, he would get the proper education, proper help, and he could stay negative. Not like becoming positive is something bad, but I mean, I just understood what lack of proper education means for people's lives. Because for him it took few years to accept that he's positive, and actually he doesn't go to his clinic in Krakow, he travels to Warsaw because he feels stigmatized that someone can see him going to that clinic and the rumors will spread. So I decided I have to do something. So what I want to show you is actually the route I went through with all my PrEP activism. And I will go through some of them with actually telling you what worked and what didn't. Having my cultural Polish glasses, so maybe you can translate it to your local issues. So first what I started, I saw the PrEP project, the US-based videos on YouTube. Have you seen it? You haven't seen it? It's a great project. It's really, really well done. The problem is it's too American. You know, I did subtitles in Polish, I did everything, but it didn't work out. So maybe let's just move to the details. So I was a little bit disappointed. Well, there is all this knowledge that is needed, but somehow it doesn't get traction. It doesn't hit the audience. It's not polished enough. People can't relate to those problems and situations. So then I thought, okay, let's try to reach out to local, and I'm from Krakow, so I reached out to the local organization who organizes Pride. It's like, hey guys, I would really like to do something with you. How about we do a talk about PrEP? I'm on PrEP myself, I can talk about my experiences. I'm not an expert, I'm not a doctor, but I can talk about what my road to PrEP was. So maybe people can learn from that. So we did it, we made the event, and actually if there's anyone from Scruff or Grindr, thank you so much, because you guys help us to make free advertisement for this event. And we did it in the local gay bar, and we had the full audience. I was really surprised. And it was well advertised, we got the full bar. It was really good discussions. By the way, if there are typos, I'm dyslexic, so I'm sorry. So we had really good discussions, very good dynamics. But what was shocking for me, that in the corner of the room, just like you see it over there, I had a group of 10 people from the testing center who came there just to point out, no, you're not right about this. And what about the increased STD rates? And I just felt like, oh my God, I live in the parallel universe. I'm getting help for gay guys saying we need to know more about PrEP, and I'm being bashed by people who work with the testing clinic. So that's my learning. It was really difficult for me after this to figure out, okay, what is going on here? And then I looked back into what I experienced in Denmark, because the process of getting PrEP in Denmark wasn't smooth. It took around 2 years until getting it to the medical system. But within those 2 years, we very quickly moved from PrEP skeptics to PrEP enthusiasts into AIDS Foundation. So I thought, okay, Łukas, it's not your fault, it's not these people's fault, they are just not ready yet. Yeah, about that picture. Then the next thing happened. So I got contacted by the fetish blog and the sex shop blog about, hey, look, how about you make some articles for our users? We have a few thousand subscribers. It's a group based on people interested in fetishes. Other group was based on people who purchased some sex products. And we would like you to make a short article about what PrEP is and what your experiences are. So I did that. And with the help of my friends and SLM Copenhagen, we made this beautiful fetish campaign, which right now I'm thinking I maybe should not have done it. But anyway, it's there in the internet. It got a huge traction. It also gave the authenticity, because one thing, if you work with the fetish communities, they can smell you are not with them. You know, you cannot talk to the rubber guy not understanding what wearing rubber is. But if you are from within the community, you speak the same language. I'm not here as a doctor educating you, well, you should do this or you should do that. It's like, no, hey, you know, I also make my mistakes. I like sex. I take PrEP. This is how I protect myself. And that was the level of conversation we had. Sorry. And the feedback was super positive, actually. The owners were getting emails about thank you for honest, and finally someone is talking like on the same language with us, or finally someone talking openly about PrEP, because quoting, because in the times where people don't use condoms already and they have chemsex, the only solution we can have is PrEP. Because we are constantly in this loop about, will people use less condoms because they have PrEP? And actually the problem is people don't use condoms already. So let's give PrEP. Yeah, so some learnings, you know, when you work in a campaign like that and you want to make it local, the cheapest model is yourself. So sometimes consider, do you really want to be there forever? However, when I'm maybe 70-something, I will look at it like, yes, I did it. So then the next thing happened. From the fetish and sex shop blogs, when you may think like, wow, you know, you are medical people and so on, I'm talking about fetish blogs. But this is where this information needs to be, on the level of the, you know, hooking up, on the level of the darkroom. Then the next thing we did the huge interview to Replica, and I should just make one step back. I thought, how can I get this traction as Łukas Sabat, who no one knows who the hell he is? What could give me this credit to get people's attention? And then I figure out, it's gonna be Mr. Gay. I'm gonna get to Mr. Gay Poland. And then I will have credit to talk to people because they're gonna wanna listen to me. So I did it. So there it is, Mr. Gay 2018. Thank you very much. There is a new one already, so clap for him. But that gave me this attention that I needed to get the story out, to get the credit from the LGBT community. Hey, who are you? So we did this interview and the photo shoot for Replica. Some people commented it's the disgrace that the, how do you call this, the sash is touching his underwear. So that's the level of problems we are talking about. What happened, guys, is like, this is the #1 printed magazine in Poland, the LGBTQ magazine in Poland. If you are in Warsaw, in some LGBT-friendly places, you can get it. You can actually subscribe for a yearly fee to support them. What happened was that we printed this interview, and then they put some stories online, as opposed to a PrEP article before with the doctor. Yeah, 45 comments. When they posted the story with me, it just exploded because I talked openly about sex, about being in the open relationship, about being on PrEP. And that was just too much to handle. Because of you, you come back, we don't have relationships, legitimate relationships in Poland. That's just one of the examples of comments that I was getting. But there's nothing like a bad PR, right? Because all this just spinned and spinned the story about PrEP, about this guy, did you hear about it? And all those comments make this topic the most popular topic that they ever had. And after the huge amount of hate, where I managed to grow like a thick skin to survive this, because I knew I am doing it, something interesting happened. Because, you know, there is a lot of silent people, the silent observers, who don't react, don't comment nasty, but they are just there thinking. And at some point, it was too much of that hatred. And they started to activate. And they started to talk, no, I don't agree. No, this is what I do. No, we should talk about the sex health. So from this negative experience, we actually managed to spin it in a very positive thing. Since people started to ask about what PrEP is, the next move was going to social media and videos and Instagram story, where I just post the picture of me taking PrEP, and then just ask me a question, and people asking questions. Okay, so what is it? How does it work? How do you feel? Do you have any side effects? What about your kidneys? What about your liver? What about resistance? You know, all those things that be on the replay, I got them. I also made some live stories when I talked about my experience in like a closed groups of Facebook users, LGBT forums, with around like 9,000 users. And it also got super popular. People were asking comments, they were asking questions. But the problem with this setup was that besides taking a lot of my time, and as I mentioned, this is not my job, so I was like, had to balance it. People ask, okay, can you make it shorter because it's an hour? I don't want to scroll through all this topic. I'm only interested about dosing, and so on. So from this story, Mr. PrEP evolved. So Mr. PrEP is a concept where you have a YouTube channel where you talk about sex without taboo. You talk on with the language which is not too medical, but it's very factual, without any morality and so on. And you explain complex things easily, like how PrEP works. How do I take it? And it's in the very short movies, in the series of short movies. And I think that was the most successful thing I got. And the measure of success is, for me, when I, in real life, meet people and say, hey, Mr. PrEP, and that's for example, being in Berlin in the Revolver party, comes guy to you, is like speaking in Polish, hey, thanks so much for what you're doing. Thanks to you, I learned about PrEP, or I got my first HIV test. And I think that was the most rewarding part for all the hate that I got from doing all this. One learning, I started without the t-shirt because I thought that's going to drag more attention, learn from the comments from the Replica magazine. But then some of my friends said, Łukas, you know, some people watch it on the metro or in the bus, and maybe they will feel embarrassed that they're watching like shirtless guys. So can you put a t-shirt on? So that was the learning. But then the t-shirt is also somehow with the topic of sex. So if you think about all this, I actually made a loop. Because the first thing I do, you remember what it was? Subtitles for this PrEP project, the US concept, which was a YouTube channel. And making this presentation, I realized I did through all that steps just to end up at exactly the same concept, but targeted to a Polish gay guy in the Polish language within the local problems and more localized. So yeah, key learnings, things you can take home with you. Be personal, but not necessarily private. Meaning people need to relate to you. I gave face. You know, this is not actor hired. It's me, Łukas Sabat, talking. Interact one-on-one to answer the questions and brace for impact. Thank you very much.
Okay, well done. Thank you.